What's going on, guys? Welcome back to What Cheers. In this video update, I'm going to be talking all about Extreme Beer Fest weekend of 2015, which just happened last week. Finally getting around to putting my thoughts together. I emailed myself a bunch of notes about everything, so let's get right into it. I don't know how long this video is going to be. You can skim through it if you want. I'm just going to kind of wing it and see where it goes. So for Extreme Beer Fest, if you guys don't know what that is, I'd be surprised, but just to tell you again, it is probably, besides Great American Beer Festival, which happens in Denver, this is the best beer fest anywhere. It's once a year. The Beer Advocate is the host. They put it on, and Dogfish Head as well. Sam Calagione's a big part of that, and it's all basically the best breweries bring nothing but extreme beers, meaning it could be just their rare beers that they make that are highly sought after that you just don't get to try, or it could be beers that they brew specifically for Extreme Beer Fest and for that weekend. So when you go, you're going to be in for a treat. I mean, these are usually one-off beers. A lot of them are one-off beers, or just brewery-only stuff that you just can't ever imagine trying, and they all come into this one building, and it's, like most beer fests, you get a sample cup, 2-ounce pours, and you just go around, wait in line at the for the booth, get your sample, start drinking it, go get another line for the next brewery you want to try. It's pretty insane. I've gone 3 years in a row now, and it really is. I can't imagine going to another festival with more incredible beers and breweries. It's just awesome. So that's sort of what Extreme Beer Fest is. It's in Boston, Mass. So that's that. My buddy Royce came in from Iowa for Extreme Beer Fest weekend to hang out with me. We had a great time. We went to Row 34. Row 34 is a great seafood and craft beer restaurant. Right near the venue, right literally across the sidewalk from where Trillium Brewing Company is, actually. And so took him to a couple places. We went to Lord Hobo as well, in Boston. It's in Cambridge, actually. It's just one of the best craft beer bars in New England. Restaurants. We had Lost Abbey Track 8 and Lost Abbey Track 10 on draft because of Extreme Beer Fest weekend. Lost Abbey and other breweries, they sort of drop kegs around Boston that you wouldn't normally see there. Lost Abbey Track 8 was incredible. It was a bourbon barrel-aged quad with raisins, cinnamon, and chilies. That was awesome. Track 10 was bourbon barrel-aged Imperial Stout with cocoa nibs and coffee. Both of them incredible. We went over to try to go to the Extreme Beer Fest pre-throwdown. That's just like the official night before party, tapping event at a bar in Somerville, Mass. I don't want to say it was poorly executed or whatever, but we went there a little bit after, like right when it opened, and we were standing there for about an hour, and we weren't getting in. Nobody was moving. The place was pretty big. We looked inside. It didn't look like it was that ridiculous. I don't know why they weren't letting people in, but I probably won't try to go to another pre-throwdown party just because it didn't make sense. I mean, I don't know what the deal was. Anyways, it just was sort of a waste of time. They had incredible beer on tap, of course. It was all extreme beers that the breweries had brought in. The two that I really wanted to try was Funky Buddha's Wide Awake It's Morning, and Chocolate Rain from the brewery was on draft, so wanted to try those. Didn't get a chance to get in, but we ended up going over to the Public House. You might have heard me mention the Public House before. Public House is a great pub in Brookline, Mass, or outside of Boston, and they were actually Trillium Brewing Company's first account. So they always have Trillium beer on, a lot of local beer, a lot of Belgian beer. They have beer from all over. It's always a really great draft list, and the food there was actually incredible, which I had never eaten there before. They had Alpine Hoppy Birthday on, which is really actually pretty good. Alpine is being brewed now at Green Flash. because they bought them out, and the beer is definitely declined somewhat. It's changed quite a bit. So for what that's worth, be careful with the Alpine that you get these days. It's not quite the same. Excuse me. It's not quite the same as it used to be. So the next morning we had we had our own Extreme Beer Fest brunch. We went to a great restaurant here called Julian's, and it's sort of a hipstery, new American food and really great beer. The guy who runs it does a great job. We actually bought a bottle of Firestone Walker's 15th anniversary and had that with brunch. And the brunch was fantastic. The beer was awesome too. Those Firestone Walker anniversary beers, they're aging really well. So that was that. As far as Extreme Beer Fest, guys, to start off, one complaint right out the gate, and this has happened 2 years in a row now. You're getting a good deal. You're paying $60 a ticket for a 3.5 hour session. There's 3 sessions: one Friday night, and one during the day Saturday, and one during the afternoon Saturday. It says the event starts at 6 and goes till 9:30. When we showed up right at 6. We ended up not getting into the building until about 6:20, 6:25. You basically cut out, several samples worth of time that you could have had with that. I just don't understand why, if the event starts at 6, you should plan ahead to start letting people in at 5:45, so that you're actually there at 6. Believe me, when you go to this event, you need every minute that you can possibly get, because when they call last call at the end of 3.5 hours or whatever, they call last call like 15-20 minutes before, you're still like scrambling to try to sample stuff, because you're not just standing there chugging samples. Like you're trying to take your time and go slow, but there's just so many beers and so many breweries you want to try, and these are all like 10% plus beers. So the whole thing is I think it's just run a little bit poorly, because anyways, you shouldn't be standing outside for the first half hour of the festival, and I was definitely not at the end of the line either. So I just think next time they need to let people in sooner. So some highlights of the fest in general. Got to meet Jim Cook. The guy is hilarious. This guy is one of the most successful businessmen, in the craft beer industry, if not the most successful, besides maybe like Ken Grossman. And he's just loving life. This guy, he's just like on the in TV and the commercials. He's loving life. He's super happy to be there, and he was one of the innovators in craft beer. So you can say what you want about Boston Beer Company and Sam Adams, but kudos to him. He's done a great job, and he's a very nice guy. Got to meet the bros. Yeah, I sometimes I talk shit about the bros on here because of the ratings they give beers, but whatever. Generally, they're pretty nice guys. That was fine. Sam Calagione did not show up at my session. Now I find that a little frustrating, a little annoying, only because the event is co-sponsored or fully sponsored basically by Dogfish Head. I don't know what happened to him. I don't know why he wasn't there, but no Sam Calagione at the session. And the one Dogfish beer I went and tried is one of my favorites, which is 120, and it was a 2011 120, which I've had aged 120 and it tastes amazing. Whatever the hell they were pouring out of that keg was pretty much garbage. I don't know what the deal was. It did not taste good at all. So that was disappointment. Last year I had an amazing experience with the 120 that was being randled, and that was awesome. The year before as well, randled 120 with fresh whole cone hops, just awesome stuff. But this year I don't know what the deal was. I've already mentioned this in the Top and Goliath video, but Top and Goliath pulled out a week before the festival, which is absolutely amateur hour, and it's pretty unprofessional, while they were at Hunapude literally the week before, and they claimed production issues. And really it's just because Mike Sabo left and they were just scrambling to figure out what the hell they were doing. But unfortunately, Beer Advocate had the guide printed already, so all these people that showed up were looking at it going, oh, Top and Goliath, and they saw all the beers that they brought, and they weren't even there. So that's really, really shitty move on their part, totally unprofessional. And they were putting on bottle releases during that week. Like, the whole thing was total bullshit. Anyways, so moving on from that. So another disappointment at EBF was Treehouse, of all things. I didn't really care, but a lot of people were pissed off that they only brought one beer. They thought it was arrogant, that they were, thinking that their one beer was the best beer. Look, they brought Good Morning. Good Morning is one of the most sought after beers. It's one of the highest rated beers at the entire festival. It wasn't supposed to be an arrogant, cocky move at all. They've been scrambling to keep up with their 5-barrel production. They've been transitioning over to the new system, and I think it's, people will complain about anything, and meanwhile they're drinking the best beer at the festival, saying, oh, that's all you brought. But I understand, when you go to Extreme Beer Fest, you're taking up a booth, you should have like at least a few beers. For my session, it was just Good Morning. I think it was session 3. People told me that Nate showed up and was pouring people samples of Julius out of cans. That's great. I think that's awesome. But to complain about them bringing one beer, whatever. The only thing was that they did have months ahead of time to plan, and online on Beer Advocate they had a beer called Beginner's Mind that they were bringing along with Good Morning. And I don't know why there wasn't an announcement made or correction made beforehand about that, because it was in the guide book when you got there and it was online. I'm sure they saw that. I don't know what the miscommunication was about that, but the beer was never brewed. It just wasn't brewed. So I don't know. People were disappointed about that. I was a little bit disappointed, but you get over it, They're making so much good beer. If you want their beer, you can put a little effort in and probably trade for it, or go to the brewery and just pick it up yourself. So that's that with Treehouse. The other big complaint of the festival was Cigar City running out of Hunahpu in like 20 minutes. Who the hell cares? Honestly, look, Hunahpu, great. It's great. But, people just get over it. It's not the end of the world. So if Cigar City was stupid enough to not bring enough Hunahpu, or whatever the case may be, then, shame on them, but people need to get over it. It's just Hunahpu. So some breweries didn't tap beers until Saturday, I heard. I didn't care or know about any of those, but it's like, come on. You're at Extreme Beer Fest, you're supposed to bring the beers for each session. It's clearly stated. It's just some breweries don't give a shit about rules and don't want to follow them. So, alright, that's all the bitching that I'm going to do about Extreme Beer Fest. Let's get down to the good stuff. So here's a quick rundown of the best beers that I had at Extreme Beer Fest, and then I'll tell you which beers I would have liked to have tried, but I either ran out of time or forgot to go get a taster of them. So best beers I had, let's go. Four Hands, they're Madagascar, Imperial Milk Stout, aged in bourbon barrels with whole vanilla beans. Those guys just killed that beer. I haven't tasted a beer with so much vanilla in a very long time. They're out of Missouri, by the way, Four Hands. Avery Tweak, everyone knows Avery. They do great big beers. Avery Tweak has been one of my favorite beers ever since I went to Extreme Beer Fest, and I tried it first there, and it's just incredible. It's an Imperial Stout aged in bourbon barrels with a ton of coffee added, and it's like 18%. It's just ridiculous, and they actually do bottle it now, which is great. Carton out of New Jersey, they're Irish coffee. Basically, they're regular coffee with aged in Irish wood and peppermint added. Very, very cool take on that regular coffee. If you've never had that beer, it's very unique. It's phenomenal. That was a really fun one. Firestone Walker, they brought the Maltose Falcons Brownywine, which was aged in rum, brandy, and bourbon barrels. You guys know Firestone Walker, they just have an incredible barrel program there. That was a really cool beer to try. I'm not sure if it's brewery only or if it's draft only, whatever the deal is, but never heard of it before. It was awesome. Best beer of the whole festival for me, right here, Funky Buddha's Last Buffalo in the Park. I mean, I don't think this beer has even been outside of maybe like one festival, maybe two, whatever. It's basically not available, and they brought a keg of it. Basically, what it is, it's barrel aged Imperial Stout with coconut and coffee. It's a Buffalo Trace barrel aged version of their Snowed In. Snowed In is the Imperial version of Last Snow, which is coconut and coffee. So this beer was just the best fucking thing in the world. I just loved it. I wish I had a bottle of it, or I could take some home with me. It was pretty much in everyone's top 5 favorite beers of the festival on Beer Advocate. So that was just a real treat from Funky Buddha. Grimm, their BFF, it was a triple IPA with hop exclusively with Falconer's Flight, aka Bitchin' Falconer's Flight, aka Best Friends Forever. That was one of the highlights of hoppy beers for the night. 9% triple IPA, just good, really good shit from them. They're also in Brooklyn. Jack's Abbey brought it big time. Their triple dry hopped version of Hoponius Union. You guys probably know they make all lager base beers, and they do a killer job, especially with the hoppy stuff as well. Hoponius Union is sort of like their flagship hoppy lager, but they did a triple dry hop version just for this, and it was just, it was incredible. It was incredibly good. They also brought their Lagerness Monster, which I loved. It was a 15% Imperial Baltic Porter aged in bourbon barrels. Also brought their Bride Maker, which is a 13% English barley wine aged in bourbon barrels. Killer stuff from Jack's Abbey. Love those guys. Super underrated brewery. Kane out of New Jersey brought their Night to End All Dawns. I loved that beer. I went to a bottle share once, and I got to try all the variants, and it's just a fantastic barrel-aged Imperial Stout. Pretty hard to get, especially the variants too. Oscar Blues Death by Coconut. It's an Irish porter aged on coconut and dark chocolate. That beer was just coconut bomb, so freaking good. Other half, get to try their all green everything, which is basically the best beer that they do, at least the best hoppy beer. I got to try it in New York City as well, but trying it again at the Extreme Beer Fest, that beer just, in my mind, is solidified as one of the best hoppy beers in New England or anywhere. So that was all green everything. Green Diamonds from Other Half was not quite as good as All Green Everything, but still a very good double IPA. Revolution Blue Jean was their barrel-aged Eugene Porter with blueberries added. I really liked that beer. Had a great real blueberry flavor to it. Just nice stuff from Revolution. Also their Mine Shaft Gap they brought, which is a cognac barrel-aged version of their Straight Jacket barley wine. I love a good cognac barrel-aged beer. Sierra Nevada brought game to this. It brought some good stuff. Some interesting versions of their beers, the popular beers. Tawny Port barrel-aged version of Narwhal, and a Madeira barrel-aged version of their Ovila Quad with plums. They also brought their Audition double IPA, which I found very enjoyable, very, very good. Audition is like their brewery-only series that they do. Smutty Nose and Smut Labs, which is Smut Labs is like their name for their small batch series, basically. Experimental stuff, and they brought a triple IPA called Shebang. That beer was one of the best of the hoppy offerings at the whole festival. I was blown away. Also got to try Surly Abrasive, which is just incredibly good when it's fresh, and it was definitely fresh at this fest. Abrasive, and I got to try Darkness. That was very cool for me because I actually went out to Darkness Day in October, and to have Darkness there. Also, their booth was right next to Treehouse, which is the brewery that I always go to locally, so that was kind of cool that I've been to both of those. I felt like that was cool, whatever. And of course, Treehouse Good Morning. Treehouse Good Morning, one of the best beers at the festival, easily. It was in almost everyone's top 5 as well, favorite beers from the fest. So that's the best beers that I had, that I was able to try. There's a lot that I didn't get to try. So yeah. So here's a rundown of the beers that I wish I tried. For whatever reason, every year I go to this, I always say I'm going to make a list ahead of time of what I'm going to do. And every time I go, I'm just like overwhelmed, and you just want to go to this, run around and do this. My dad and I tried doing a zigzag from one end of the hall all the way down, and we did not make it all the way. It was not the best plan of action, not the best plan of attack to try to zigzag your way through the entire event. There's just no way you can do it. But we were optimistic. Beers I wish I tried, guys. Against the Grain 70K Coconut, I heard was incredible. Obviously Huna Poo was supposed to be good. I mean, it just, like I said before, it just kicks so quickly. Dark Horse, their Boar Rum, it was bourbon and rum barrel aged, double barrel aged Plead the Fifth. Dogfish Head's Six Cider and Beer for Breakfast I would have loved to try. Due South, I really regret not going to their booth because I would have tried every single one of the beers. I've heard they're amazing. Their Calling All Cars Coffee Donut Porter. Their Mariana Trench Bourbon Barrel Aged Imperial Stout with cocoa and vanilla aged in bourbon barrels. Yeah, Mariana Trench, barrel aged, supposed to be amazing. Their Mexican Standoff, which was the Imperial Porter with chocolate, vanilla, cinnamon, and chili peppers. All of those beers are supposed to be incredible from Due South. I have to go see them next year. The Grim Double Negative Imperial Stout Bourbon Barrel Aged, I should have tried that. Hardywood's Bourbon Sidamo Coffee Stout. And the Great Return with Pineapple IPA. I probably would have really liked that one. Ithaca's Java Power, which is coffee version of Flower Power, would have been cool. I heard Darwin say this a lot, and a lot of other people actually. Jackie O's Oro Negro, the American Double Stout brewed with black walnuts, conditioned in oak, cocoa nibs, vanilla beans, cinnamon sticks, and habanero peppers. That one was supposed to be one of the best of the festivals. That was the Jackie O's Oro Negro. I should have tried that one. Cane's Sunday Brunch. This sounds amazing. Imperial Milk Porter with coffee, maple syrup, and cinnamon. I should have tried the casks. They had a lot of casks there. The two that I wanted to try the most were the Ithaca Flower Power with fresh grapefruit, Citra, and Apollo hops, and Jack's Abbey Framing Hammer with maple syrup. Did not get to try either one of those. Night Shift Bean Porter, barrel aged coffee porter, supposed to be really good. And Proclamation's Derivative. Proclamation is a brewery right here in southern Rhode Island. Really regret not going over to try it. Apparently they have a new pale ale that's incredible called Derivative, and it's hopped with Amarillo and Citra and dry hopped with those two plus Galaxy. It's supposed to be really, really up to par with the other really good breweries around here doing pales and hoppy beers. So I'll have to see if I can try that one sometime at the brewery. And obviously Top and Goliath, I mean, I already went over the whole thing about them. They're a no-show, and all their beers were listed. They had King Sue listed, they had SR71 listed, they had Super Sumo, X-Hops Purple Label, and I mean, Super Sumo and X-Hops Purple Label didn't even get made, so I don't know what that's about. They didn't show up. And as I mentioned, Treehouse's Beginner's Mind never got brewed. It wasn't there. Would have loved to try, whatever. So that was pretty much Extreme Beer Fest, guys. Really great. I think ultimately the problem is there's too much beer to try in three hours. You basically only get 3 hours. Like I said, getting in took forever, and then they call last call. It's about 3 hours. And, they do have amazing food vendors there, but you're usually so focused on trying the beers that, the 3 hours just goes by so fast. So if you go to Extreme Beer Fest, you have to really come out with a game plan and be a little bit more meticulous about which breweries you want to go to, which beers you want to try, because, they do kick throughout the festival, but most of them don't kick at the beginning. They'll kick towards the end, but anyways, it's good to go in with a game plan to that kind of festival because there really is more beer than you can drink, even if you want to try all of them. So it's still a fantastic event. I will go every year for $60. It's the best fucking deal for a beer festival. It's just incredible. You guys can look into it. I'll put a link below about it. If you've never heard of it or don't know about Extreme Beer Fest, a lot of people fly in from all over to go to it too. So yeah, the next morning, I went to Treehouse in the morning to get Good Morning with my buddy Royce. Definitely always try to get Good Morning if you can. It's ridiculously good and it's highly sought after. There's also an amazing barbecue place in Sturbridge, about 25 minutes away from Treehouse, called BT Smokehouse. It's a BYOB place, and it's like the best freaking barbecue anywhere. So I used to just go over there with my parents after getting Treehouse fills, and you go eat some incredible barbecue and drink your fresh growler fills. Awesome. I took Royce to Armsby Abbey in Worcester, which I mentioned in another video. Armsby Abbey, one of the best restaurants / craft beer bars in New England, really. We also went and checked out Wormtown Brewery's new facility. I've been a big supporter of Wormtown for a couple of years now. They were pretty much unknown. Their Be Hoppy was becoming more well known, and then it became really well known, and then people were treating it like Hetty Topper around here, like you couldn't get it. It is one of the most underrated IPAs in the country. It's absolutely fantastic IPA. They used to be connected to a restaurant in Worcester called Peppercorns. That's where they operated out of, and they had all their beers on tap at that restaurant. Very, very small facility where they were brewing then, so it's just awesome to see them have their own place now. It's gorgeous, it's brand new, it's in Worcester, it's Wormtown Brewery. Unfortunately, the Be Hoppy that I tasted from them, unless I got poured the wrong beer, it was pretty terrible. It tasted nothing like Be Hoppy, and I'm just hoping that they're working out the kinks. I don't know, it just tasted nothing like that beer should. And if you guys have ever had Be Hoppy, you know it's a really good IPA. So I also got to try the Buddha's Juice from Wormtown, which used to be one of my favorite double IPAs from them. And I don't know what happened. It just tasted like Christmas trees or pine needles, and it did not taste like a double IPA at all. It was pretty terrible. I don't know what that's about. Same thing with Be Hoppy. I don't know. But however, their birthday brew number 5 was a triple IPA that was 10.7%, 130 IBU, and it was incredible. It tasted like the old Wormtown. It tasted fresh, juicy, hoppy, clean, drinkable for almost 11%. So that beer was phenomenal. I'm just not sure what happened with the other beers. Maybe they're still dialing in their new system. Maybe I got poured the wrong beer from the other ones, but either way, I fully support Wormtown. Really happy for them that they have their own place now. And it's a pretty beautiful facility. If you guys are in the area, you should go check out Wormtown. They're pretty great. So yeah, that's that. Lastly on this video, guys, I'm going to talk about the Trillium Tap Takeover at Row 34. They had this event the Sunday after Extreme Beer Fest. So the day after, my father and I got up. We wanted to go over to try the Trillium Second Anniversary beer, which is uppercase double IPA. Last year it was metal. And so that was happening at Row 34, which is literally a seafood and craft beer restaurant across the sidewalk from where Trillium is. So it's literally next door. They had the most Trillium beers ever on tap at the same time in one place. It was incredible. We just wanted to go try the anniversary double IPA, and then when we got in there and saw the list, we're like, holy shit, we got to stay and try these beers. I've had most of them, but to get them fresh on tap all in one place was just really, really cool. So I got to meet the owner of Trillium finally. It's been a long time coming. If you guys don't know, Trillium was where my parents and I were coming from when we got in the car crash. And so I've been waiting or trying to find the right time to introduce myself and my father to the owner of Trillium, which is JC, John Claude. Wonderful guy, absolutely wonderful guy. It was the perfect time to introduce ourselves and say hi and tell him, how much we love his beer and how much my mom loved his beer and how we've been supporting them as much as we can since the accident, and that we're continuing to support them. And he just really, it meant a lot to him. It was very heartfelt, and he definitely appreciated it. Very nice guy. And then so we got to drinking. We sampled almost all of the hoppy beers and stouts that they had. But the best part was that when I got there, I was texting Darwin to see if he happened to stick around over the weekend to go to the event, and he just so happened to be there. So me and Darwin and Darwin's buddy was there as well with him, and we all just sort of got together and started sampling all the beers that were on tap. And I love hanging out with Darwin. I just got to meet him in New York City for the first time, and then he came up for Extreme Beer Fest. So we ended up hanging out the whole afternoon into the evening, trying and sampling all of the Trillium beers. And then we had a really, really wonderful dinner. So that was just a great, fantastic day to hang out and sample beers and kind of just geek out together about the beers. If you guys don't know who Darwin is, or you don't know what I'm talking about, you definitely should. He literally is probably my favorite beer reviewer on YouTube. He's just incredible. He's very decisive about what he thinks about the beers, and he's very smart. He's very quick with his reviews. I'm very lengthy, but he's on point, and he's a great guy. He's a great beer reviewer. So definitely go check him out. I'll put a link to his YouTube in my description of this video, so you can check him out. If you're not already subscribed, definitely do so. So yeah, the beers that we had that day, guys, we had the Night and Day, which was a Russian Imperial Stout with cold brewed coffee. We had the Day and Night, which was a American blonde barley wine with cold brewed coffee. We had the PM Dawn, which is an American stout with cold brew coffee. Those were the stouts. All of them were phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. I can't say which I like best, to be honest with you. Trillium is just killing it. As far as the hoppy beers that Trillium brought, they had the Galaxy Fort Point, which is their highest rated beer of all their beers, and that was really, really good. However, for some reason that particular keg tasted like the hops were a little faded or a little older, because the one that I just reviewed, I got fresh growler fills and tasted completely different. Like, it blew my mind, which you'll see in the review of the Galaxy 4 Point when I post it. But the one we had there was the only really I don't want to say real disappointment, but it was a little bit of a disappointment. So they had the Galaxy 4 Point, the double dry hopped Melcher Street. That was the highlight of the hoppy beers for us, besides the uppercase. Double dry hop Melcher Street was incredibly good. Just had everything going for it. The Fort Point Pale Ale, most of you probably heard of that beer. It's sort of like one of the beers that, if not the beer that got their name on the map, sort of. Fort Point Pale Ale, one of the best pale ales just out there. It's just incredible. During dinner, we sampled the A Street IPA. That was actually one of the highlights. I think that was probably the third best beer on the menu. Very, very juicy, very clean, very good beer. And Congress Street IPA, also one of their staple beers, one of the beers they really kind of started with. Just a fantastic IPA. And lastly, we had the Uppercase, which was Trillium's second anniversary beer. Incredible beer. It's mainly a mosaic beer, but also has Galaxy, Citra, and Columbus. So you can just imagine that combination together. And a huge double IPA is just phenomenal. I mean, they went big. They have to. It's their anniversary. Last year they did metal and heavy metal, so you have to really bring it. And they totally nailed it for an anniversary beer. Just great stuff. And that was pretty much it for the Row 34 event. We had a great day with Darwin and his friend, and a great evening. Just turned out to be a lot more fun than standing around just drinking by yourself. And pretty much that's it, guys, for this video. I got to try Founders Canadian Breakfast Stout on tap. Founders CBS, incredible beer. I feel like it was even more incredible, obviously, back in, I think it was 2011 when I got my bottle of it. Founders CBS was the first beer I ever traded for when I got into trading, and it was the biggest deal in the world to me. And that beer back then, oh my God, it was like solid gold if you could get a Founders CBS back then, and it still is an incredible beer. They haven't brewed it since 2010, and now they did a draft only. They did a draft only version of this beer for 2015, and it's hitting certain spots. We got one keg of it here in Rhode Island, and it's Founders CBS. I mean, it's incredible. It's incredible stuff. The funny part is now, with Treehouse Good Morning, Toppling the Lights, Morning Delight, these beers, you may have had, and there's just CBS is almost there, but it's already like it's a step behind those kind of beers, but it's still incredible. If you can get it on draft, definitely try it. You know, it's the best. It's the best Imperial Stout you're going to get from Founders. It's better. It's way better than KBS in my opinion. I don't even think it's from the same base beer, but maybe I'm wrong. It's huge maple notes. And yeah, they had like Big Luscious on tap, which I thought was a really good sweet dark chocolate and raspberry stout, but it's very sweet. Backwoods Bastard, always a wonderful barrel-aged Scotch ale. And Blushing Monk, I love Blushing Monk. That's also another beer that they rebrewed that they haven't brewed since 2011, I want to say. And it tastes just like it used to, so they really nailed that beer. Same thing with CBS. I mean, CBS tastes just like it did back in 2010 or 11. So, you know, kudos to them for rebrewing those beers properly, and they nailed it. Yeah, guys, that's it. That's it for my whole EBF weekend video. It's probably super long. I'm sorry. You know, I'm just sort of winging it here. And if you guys have any questions about anything relating to this video or not, you could ask me why my hair looks this way. I have no freaking idea. Your guess is as good as mine. I just woke up like this and left it. So I'll be happy to answer any questions, guys. And remember to comment, subscribe. Please go over to my Facebook page, or I should say the What Cheers Beer Reviews Facebook page, if you want to keep up to date with what I'm doing. If I'm out at events, I'll be posting. I usually post pictures of what I'm drinking or where I'm at or what's going on to the Facebook page. I can't always do video updates on every little thing that I do, so if you haven't already, go over to the Facebook page, like it, and keep up to date with me on there. But that's it, guys. Thanks for watching this update video, and hope you enjoyed. I'll see you soon in another update, or hopefully lots of beer reviews to come. So thanks and cheers.